Hi, I'm Galen. I'm a volunteer at the Coiner Farm here in Silver Spring, and we're going to do a little demonstration and talk about saving seeds. Saving seeds is a really good way to take a favorite vegetable or fruit that you get and grow it for yourself the next year. One important thing to know about that is that there are hybrid plants and there are what are called open pollinated plants. Hybrid plants, the seeds from those won't make a plant that's true to the parent. So if you've got a hybrid tomato from the store, for example, and you save those seeds, you might not get a tomato exactly like that the next year. But all the plants that we grow here at Coiner Farm are open pollinated, which means that the seeds will grow true to the parent plant. So we've got several varieties of plants here today that are currently growing here at the farm. And I'm just going to show you really quickly how to do those. And some of this will seem super simple. And that's because it's really not that complicated. The key things are that you get the seed when the plant is mature, not when it's green and young. You get mature seeds, that you clean them well, and that you get them dry before you put them in storage. And the best way to store them is to refrigerate them or even freeze them, and I'll mention that again a little later. So I'm going to start with one of the simplest seeds to collect and to deal with, which is the seed from a bean plant. Beans, peas, those kinds of plants are basically all the same. And so we have here, growing on the back fence here at Coiner Farm, we have some lima beans, and these are already mature. You may be able to hear they're crackly, they're very dry, which is really good for this. And it's simply a matter of taking the seeds out, and these are basically ready to go. Right? So they're already dry, they're already clean, and all you need to do is just save them until next year, keeping them cool. You could probably just put these in your basement and they'd be fine. I like to keep seeds in a refrigerator, and I'll put them either in a small little plastic bag, or I use small paper envelopes a lot to hold the seeds. Make sure that you label the seed so that you don't forget what it is. So that's the beans. Just open them up. Now, if you opened up a little younger pod that wasn't quite this dry, then you might want to leave the seeds out. If the seeds have a little dampness to them, just leave them out for a few days and let them dry out before you put them in their storage container. All right, so next I'm going to move on to one of the nightshade family plants, the peppers. And we have a selection of peppers here from the farm, and they're basically all the same. They're almost as simple as the beans, but when you cut the pepper open, then the seeds will be, a lot of times are up here right by the top of the plant. And if you have opened your plant up from the top, you may be able to take that whole piece out and you'll have a whole bunch of seeds holding on there. All right, so for the pepper, what you do is just scrape the seeds off, and if you get any little obvious chunks of pepper membrane from the plant in with them, then try to get that off. But basically the project then is spreading them out so they can dry. A little rinse with some water would be fine as well. But they're pretty simple as well, and you just let them dry. I usually let them dry for about 3 days. So they're nice and dry, and then I'll take the seeds, put them in an envelope, and refrigerate them. Right. A cousin to the pepper is the tomato. And tomatoes are the most complicated of the seeds that we're going to do today. All of you have probably opened up a tomato before, so no surprise how that is. And if you open the tomato up, you'll find that the seeds will be concentrated in these little pockets. When you take the seeds out, they are surrounded by a somewhat goopy mess, right? And so the easiest way to deal with this is to put the seeds in a dish and then add some water. Plenty of water to cover the seeds up. Label them, and then let them sit for at least 2 days, 2 to 3 days. If you are Googling how to save seeds, you may see this referred to as fermentation. And what will happen is that the tomatoey substance that's surrounding and kind of clinging onto the seeds and making them hard to clean will ferment. Then, and I don't have the tool here with me tonight, but after about 3 days, I'll simply take the tomato seeds in the water and dump them into a fine meshed strainer you may have around your kitchen, and just run some more water through them, and all of that filmy goop that's been clinging out of the tomato seeds will wash away. Then you lay the seeds out. So let's pretend that we've done that, and we've got our seeds strained, high-tech strainer here, and then you lay the seeds out. I like to just lay them out on a plain piece of paper, spread them apart as best you can. These are still kind of sticking together, and let them dry for, like the peppers, 3 or 4 days until they're nice and dry. Then you can put them in your seed-saving envelope. All right, so those are the tomatoes. Now, the last of our nightshade family plants are eggplants. And 2 varieties of eggplant we have here at the farm. I'm just going to cut open this little guy here. So the eggplants are kind of between tomatoes and peppers. The seeds are very small. They're the smallest of all these seeds. And they don't have very much clinging on to them, but they have a little bit. And so what I usually do is treat the eggplant seeds similarly to the tomatoes. I'll soak them for a couple of days and then strain them out. And then same process. Then dry them. But you could probably, they'd be just fine. These are coming out fairly cleanly. To just set them out and let them dry, they would probably be fine too. All right, so you're probably getting the idea. This is basically about getting your seeds out, getting any material from the fruit that's on them off of them, and then drying them and storing them. All right, so now we have a squash. Some of you may have saved squash seeds before, and some of you may have had squashes growing out of your compost pile. Squash seeds are very hardy, and they seem to do really well surviving in the compost pile and then growing. If the squash and other plants in this same family, the cucurbits, would be like squashes, summer and fall squashes or winter squashes, as well as cucumbers. If the fruit is not mature, you'll know right away the seeds just won't have any thickness to them. They'll be very thin. And often when you take the seeds out, there'll be quite a bit of squash flesh clinging onto them. So the way I usually deal with that, I've found it works pretty well, is similar to the tomatoes. Put the seeds in a little dish of water, let them soak for a couple of days, and then I like to use a paper towel, something that has just a little bit of friction. You can just take the paper towel and rub that flesh off the seed after it's had a chance to soak for a little bit, and then your seed will be fine. Lastly, we have another plant here growing at the farm, which is the amaranth. Now this is a South American seed crop that grows these beautiful fluffy flower heads that are full of a tiny little seed. They're the smallest little seeds that you can imagine. And once the amaranth is mature, you can just knock it and you'll get little seeds out. And there aren't a whole lot here. Now they're coming out. They're just tiny little black seeds, smaller than a mustard seed. And so if the seeds are coming out and you can sort them out a little bit to save them, that's all you need to do, is just separate out those little black seeds. You may not be able to see them, but they're right there. They're about the size, smaller than the head of a pin, and they're dark. If you're trying to actually harvest the amaranth to eat, you have a little more of a challenge because you want a bigger volume of seeds, and you'll get a lot of this kind of fluffy chaff along with the seeds. And you can separate that out through some techniques like using a fan outdoors, because you don't want it all over your kitchen, to kind of fluff the seeds with the chaff up and blow the chaff away. But just for seed saving, all you really need to do is massage this a little bit and roll those seeds out and collect them. And they're already dry. You can just put them right in your envelope and save them to plant next year. So that's about it. Remember, get your seeds clean, and soaking them in water for a few days is a good way to help to work the fruit off of the seeds. Dry them out well for several days, and then put them in a little plastic envelope or a paper envelope and store them in your refrigerator, or you can put them in the freezer. Or if you have a cool place in your basement, most of these seeds will do just fine for at least 1 year in that kind of storage. If you were wanting to keep them longer than one season, you definitely want to put them in a colder storage. So thanks for watching our little demonstration tonight, and I hope you'll try this out. Get a plant, even if you're not sure whether it's open pollinated or not. You can always give it a try. You might get something amazing and wonderful growing the next year. So thank you. The question was, when it's really humid, do I have to do anything special to get the seeds dry enough to store? And I have not ever had to do that. I just, in the house, in an air-conditioned house, there's enough dehumidifying going on. It might take a little bit longer than maybe 3 days to dry them out, but it's not going to hurt the seeds if they sit out drying for a week or more before you put them away.